Hey, breaking news. Are we doomed in the housing market for 2025? That's what we're going to look at today. We're looking at two big updates from Zillow and Redfin. Both have launched their 2025 housing market predictions. You don't want to miss this because it'll give us a guide as to what the experts think is going to happen next year in the housing market. My name is Jason Ferrier. I am the housing nerd. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, thank you so much. If you're a returning viewer, thank you so much. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment below. I want to know, what do you think about what Zillow and Redfin are going to say about the housing market next year? All right, let's jump into it. Now, something you should know is that I do a Redfin update every week. But today, when I looked at the data late last night, what I found was that the Thanksgiving holiday, because of the way it fell this year, really messed up the data. And it just, quite frankly, wasn't anything that I felt comfortable presenting because it was only like a few days of information. So instead, I thought, hey, let's look at their forecast for 2025. Now, all this week, I've been presenting what different experts think about the housing market next year, and Redfin and Zillow were on that list. And it just so happens that Redfin released their projections yesterday for 2025. So this is something you definitely want to check out. I was shocked when I looked at the forecast. We're also, at the end of this, I'm going to look at and show you how Redfin and Zillow actually performed regarding their forecast for 2024. So at the end of 2023, they projected how we would do this year. And I'm going to show you what their projections were and then what the results are so far in 2024. And that way you can, we can figure out, hey, are these guys worth relying on or not? Again, I think this information is pretty surprising. When I looked at it, I was surprised. Maybe you will be too. So let's look at the predictions. We're going to start with Redfin's 2025 housing market predictions. Okay. So overall, they're saying that home prices are going to rise 4% in 2025. So prediction number one, Redfin saying home prices will rise 4% in 2025. Again, comment below. I want to know, what do you think about these predictions as I roll them out in the next few minutes? So they go on to say, we expect the median U.S. home sale price to rise steadily through 2025, ending the year 4% higher than it was in 2024. Prices will rise at a pace similar to that of the second half in 2024 because we don't expect there to be enough new inventory to meet demand. Rising prices are one factor that will keep home ownership out of the reach of many Americans. No kidding. Leading some would-be home buyers to rent instead. The interesting part about these predictions is that they actually talk about rent too, which I thought was good. They talk about, hey, where's rent going to go for the year? They definitely differ on that, and they differ on their home price projections too. So right now, Redfin's saying 4% rise in 2025 home prices. And they break it down by quarter. Not much to see there. They say, hey, we're going to start in quarter three, 2024 is going to be 3%. Quarter four of 2024 is going to be 4%. And then they go into 25 at 4% each quarter. I don't know. Seems like a pretty safe call, I guess. The interesting part is we're actually up more right now in home prices than 3%. We're up like 5% according to Redfin. So that's strange that they put 3 when their data shows 5, but whatever. All right, prediction number 2 from Redfin. Mortgage rates will remain near 7%. Mortgage rates are likely to remain in the high 6% range throughout 2025, with the weekly average mortgage rate fluctuating throughout the year, but averaging around 6.8%. Investors are anticipating that if President Donald Trump implements a significant portion of his proposed tax cuts and tariffs and the economy stays strong, the Fed will only cut its policy rate twice in 2025. Keeping mortgage rates high, tariffs could be inflationary, and enacting more tax cuts would increase the U.S. deficit, both of which would push mortgage rates up high mortgage rates are the second part of the equation that will keep home buying unaffordable. So you got high prices, high mortgage rates. They're saying, well, you know, basically that's going to keep things unaffordable. I think this, well, and I want to know, what do you think about their mortgage rate prediction too? But I think this is like, uh, this is pretty accurate in my opinion as far as mortgage rates. I think a lot of people are expecting mortgage rates to crash and burn in 2025, like they're going to come down a lot, and money's going to be free again. Doesn't seem like that's the case. I hope that's not the case. We don't need lower mortgage rates necessarily. A lot of people just think we need lower prices, but as you've seen so far, their prediction number one, prices won't be lower. So they're saying, hey, 6.8% all next year is a safe assumption for mortgage rates. We'll find out. They actually name an alternate scenario that I thought was kind of interesting. Mortgage rates could drop to the low 6% range if the economy weakens and or if plans for tariffs and tax cuts are dialed back. Any year in which the presidential administration changes is unpredictable, and this one may seem especially unpredictable. I'm like, I don't know about you guys. I'm so sick of people saying, like, there's a lot of dust in the air. This year is like unpredictable. I want you to tell me a year that was predictable. Like, it's never predictable in the economy, is it? It's never predictable in the housing market. It doesn't seem like it is. It's like there's always surprises. Like, it doesn't really matter what we're doing. So I don't know. That whole narrative of like, there's a lot of dust in the air. We don't know what's going to happen yet. Well, you never know what's going to happen. We're not wizards, right? Otherwise, we just bet the stock market all day and not have to leave our couch. So, and people sometimes do that and they're successful, but not me. Prediction number 3, there will be more home sales in 2025 than 2024. I thought this was a good thing to put in here that Redfin did, because they're talking about the volume of home sales. We expect existing home sales to tick up next year, ending 2025 at an annualized rate between 4.1 and 4.4 million. That represents a year-over-year increase of 2 to 9%. They're talking about volume. So if you're an agent like me, I'm a realtor, I'm an investor. If you're an agent, then more transactions a good thing, generally speaking. But honestly, there's a lot of business out there still. People are still buying and selling right now. And I'm really busy. Like, I'm busier than I ever have been as an agent right now, with buyers and sellers. So there are still people buying and selling, but they are saying that the volume is going to increase. So that was pretty interesting, I thought. If sales post just a small increase, it'll be because of high mortgage rates and low inventory as homeowners continue to hang on to their homes. They're talking about the lock-in effect. I think the lock-in effect is something that's going to continue. I know a lot of people that are like, man, there's no way I'm selling my house right now. It just ain't happening, Jason. Like, I've got a 3% rate. I bought my house back in 2015. Maybe it's a little small for me, but there's no way I'm going to sell and get a 7% rate and then end up, paying 50% more for a house, for a bigger house. Not happening. Now, some people have to buy and sell anyway, right? They have to, because the job changes or relocations or death in the family, divorce, life changes, having kids, then you may have to move anyway. But a lot of people, I think, are still going to hang on to their house that they're in now. They also say sales may post a bigger increase if mortgage rates decline more than expected, and or if the recent burst in home buying demand continues. Home buying demand jumped in the weeks after the November election, despite mortgage rates around 7%. That's true. I have seen an uptick in demand and people out buying and, calling me about homes for sale. Again, I think there's just this mental narrative that, hey, I can't buy anything around the election because the president may come in and ruin my plans or something. I don't know. And so they don't. And then all of a sudden they run in and try to buy a house. I have seen demand pick up. So they're right about that. Even before the election, our data showed that rising mortgage rates didn't deter buyers as much as expected, likely in part because many Americans have grown accustomed to high mortgage rates. That's true. A lot of people, especially people who've been in the market a long time, are like, man, 6% rates, that's easy. That's no big deal. That's what we always deal with. 7% is even okay. Like I said, I don't think rates need to drop. A lot of people say they need to crash, but I don't think rates need to drop. It's not a not a good thing if rates come down too much. You're going to see like tons of people run back into the market to buy. I know a lot of people say there'll be a lot more listings if rates come down, but um, they have to buy. They have to go somewhere. They're either going to rent or they're going to buy. Either way, they're going to create demand. I mean, people don't sell their house and then fly off into the stratosphere and go to Mars. Can't live on Mars yet, so they got to buy a house or they got to rent. And again, comment. I want to know what you think. What's up, Smash the World? That's a cool name. How bad are these predictions for the economy? Higher prices, rates stay, and more people buy. Is there a stat on what percentage these mortgages are on income? I'm not sure I exactly know what you're referring to there. Is there a stat on what percentage these mortgages are on income? You mean what percentage are people paying for their, like what percentage of their income are going towards a mortgage? I mean, it's higher than ever. I mean, I think that ratio right now is off the charts. Like I've seen that on rent anyway, I know it's like near 50% now on average. So I got to think mortgages are near the same. Like the price to earnings ratio now is really out of whack, but that doesn't stop people from buying homes necessarily, as weird as that is. Is that what you're saying? Let me know, Smash the World. Okay. Prediction number 4, 2025 will be a renter's market. Many Americans will remain renters or become renters, while the cost of buying a home will increase. Rental affordability will improve. We expect the median U.S. asking rent to remain flat year over year. So far, we have not seen a crash in rental prices. We've seen a tapering of the growth of rental prices, but we haven't seen a crash of rental prices. Haven't seen a crash of home prices either. So they're basically saying, hey, things are so unaffordable. We're going to have a lot more renters hit the market next year versus buyers. The good news is we have a lot of multifamily coming to the market for rent, a lot of supply hitting the market over the next few months. And that's good. We also have a lot of build to rent. A lot of home builders are building to rent versus building to sell. So hopefully there's some more, more supply for people. Hopefully. They say with rents flat or maybe even down next year and home prices rising as rates are likely to stay the same, the affordability gap between renting and buying may widen. No kidding. Obviously, things get more expensive to buy and that gap widens. That's obvious. Prediction 5, fewer construction regulations will lead to more home building. Thank goodness we need less regulation in the home building market to allow people to buy homes because you need more supply, especially supply of small homes. One of the things I can't figure out, it just doesn't make any sense to me. There are tons of towns, small towns and big towns, where if you were to open up ADUs, accessory dwelling units, with regulations, looser regulations, so you could turn your garage into an apartment and rent it out to somebody, that would increase supply, I think, substantially because you already have the existing building there. You have somebody who owns the property. Now they can build like a mother-in-law suite, I guess, or casita, I guess you want to call it. To me, it's a no-brainer to do that. I'm mystified, at least here in Ohio, by the lack of willingness to change those regulations. Because if you want more supply and affordable supply, you got to allow people to build affordable inventory. So people are like, man, I want affordable housing. Housing's unaffordable. Wah, wah, wah. Well, let's build a one-bedroom apartment in my garage, on 21st Street, and I'll rent it out to somebody. A lot of cities, you can't do that. Not allowed. Not even allowed to have I'm not talking about Airbnb. I'm talking about a long-term rental. So until they loosen up those regulations, the only choice is to build new. That's expensive. I mean, building new houses, building new buildings, that's expensive. So, like, I don't know. There's a lot of existing homes, a lot of existing land that can be developed. inside of outer belts. We don't need necessarily big sprawling subdivisions, where every house looks the same. I don't think that's the answer, but that's me. So anyway, they're saying easing regulations should also lead to a rebound in multifamily housing starts. That would be a reversal from 2024 when builders pulled back on apartment starts because of the glut of supply. They also pulled back because of interest rates. So builders, there is a lot of supply hitting the market for multifamily this year, but next year's pipeline looks low because builders have backed off in single families and multifamily construction because they know there's a lot of supply hitting the market for multifamily and interest rates are high. So holding costs are high. So hopefully easier regulations, more building, more supply. That's what we need. Prediction 6, wealthy people will pay less to buy and sell homes as commissions decline slightly. You got to remember, Redfin has their own agents that they employ, and they have like a flat fee type service, I believe. If I don't know for sure, but I think that's how they do it. But they're basically saying that, and I've seen this stat already, higher priced homes and higher priced transactions will, on a percentage basis, commissions will be lower. And I think that stat exists already. Like if you look at homes that are expensive and sold and purchased, I think the commission rate on those is lower than it is historically versus affordable homes. So they say in the first full year under the new National Association of Realtors commission rules, we expect real estate commissions to come down slightly. That's true, especially for luxury homes where agents have the most room to reduce their fees, and in competitive housing markets where fees are increasingly a point of negotiation in a bidding war. It remains to be seen how much antitrust enforcers in the incoming administration will press additional real estate industry reforms. The Department of Justice said in a recent filing that it continues to scrutinize policies and practice in the residential real estate industry that may stifle competition, but it's unclear if that will take any formal action. I want to know, do you think Donald Trump is going to increase regulations on realtors, or is he going to loosen them? I don't know personally. I have no control over that. All I can tell you is so far, the idea from the lawsuit that was settled has really not helped buyers whatsoever. And in fact, this headline says it all, because wealthy people will pay less to buy and sell homes. I thought the idea of the lawsuit, one of the ideas, I think especially the plaintiffs and the plaintiffs' attorneys were, hey, this is going to make homes more affordable for people. Oops. No. Why is that? Well, think about it for a second. If I'm making 2% commission on selling $1 million home, right? And then you flip the coin and say, okay, I'm going to make 2% commission for selling $100,000 home. Which one do I make more money at? The $1 million home, right? Obviously. Well, in that situation, am I more likely? Which situation am I more likely to reduce my commission percentage? Probably the $1 million home, right? Because I've got room to play. Like I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'll reduce it down to 1.75 or 1.5. Whereas the $100,000 home, it's like at 2%, after all the work I do, that's the minimum I can take. So reducing that's really not an option in some cases. So it's like, of course you're going to pay less as a wealthy home buyer on commissions. I think that's already happened, and I would expect it to happen more, I guess, now. So the whole idea of the NAR lawsuit, like crushing realtors, is not happening. And the whole idea that it's going to make homes more affordable is fake. And I have not seen that in my transactions yet. It hasn't made things more affordable for buyers at all. I don't know many first-time buyers that are like, oh, by the way, I've just got extra money to give Jason. No, they don't have that. So the seller's still having to pay it. It's just it's when people get involved in an industry that have no idea what they're doing and no idea what they're talking about. That's really what it came down to. But you just got to roll with the punches and keep servicing clients, right? All right. I skipped a couple of these predictions because I was like, These don't matter right now, or I'm not interested in talking about them. Prediction 10, though, this one was big. Check this out. Gen Z will rewrite the American dream, cutting ownership from the script. We expect lower priced homes to boom in 2025 compared to higher priced homes. But that won't be because young Americans or working class people are breaking into home ownership. Instead, affordable homes will be snapped up by older buyers who are priced out of higher price tiers. Gen Zers, meanwhile, will keep living with family or renting until well into their 30s, opting to build wealth in other ways. I mean, this was when I read that, I was like, yeah, I can see that. I mean, there's probably a lot of younger folks out there that are like, Psh, I'm not going to worry about buying a house with a picket fence and a 2-car garage and a man cave and, deal with all that headache and all that debt. I'm going to, rent in a little tiny apartment and sit on the couch and trade crypto. I mean, I've had some renters, some short-term renters in Airbnbs I own that's what they did for a living. I've had some younger people that literally travel around the country, staying in Airbnbs for like a month, 2 months at a time, just in a different city because they can. And they just trade crypto all day. That's all they do for a living. They seem to do pretty well at it. So I had a couple conversations with them like, hey, are you planning on buying a house? No, not at all. Okay, great. So I think it's cool that Gen Z is kind of doing something different. Hopefully that happens. You don't have to buy a house to live. It's not required. It's not a requirement. You may want to buy a house, but you don't have to. So don't buy a house if you don't want to. So good job, Gen Z. Then you don't have to worry about any real estate commissions at all, right? Okay, that's Redfin's prediction. So top line prediction, 4% growth in home prices next year. That's what Redfin says. Now, let's jump to Zillow. All right, Zillow. So here's Zillow's housing market call. And they have a different format, obviously. Housing market activity will pick up, according to Zillow. Zillow forecast a 2.6% home value growth in 2025, a relatively slow pace that is similar to this year's growth. And they're correct. For existing home sales, Zillow forecasts 4.3 million in the coming year, up slightly from 4.1 million in 2023, and a projected 4 million in 2024. So just like Redfin, Zillow is saying, hey, values are going to grow. They're not going to drop. They're not going to crash. They're also saying that transactions are going to grow. Redfin put it at what, 4.1 to 4.4. Zillow's saying 4.3. That's, right in line with what Redfin thinks. So a little bit more activity, not a ton of activity, but a little more. By the way, if you're a real estate agent and you're thinking of quitting the business, I mean, you can quit, obviously. There's no law against quitting, but think twice about it if you're like, man, the market's really slow. First off, you shouldn't be slow if you're doing your job. Second, transactions will improve. And all the people that did quit, they won't be competitors anymore. So it's good for you if you're an agent, I think. This year has really weeded out the riffraff. All right. Mortgage rates will fall, then rise, then fall again. Signs point to mortgage rates easing in 2025, but as we saw in 2024, mortgage rates rarely follow the expected path. Dust in the air, right? When all this dust clears, I'll buy my house. Whatever, man. Like, everybody thought rates would crash in 2024 and come down to like 4% or something. They didn't. So there was dust in the air. Guess what? There's still dust in the air. You think it'll be dust in the air next week? Probably. Mortgage rates fell in September briefly, bringing the share of affordable listings to a 19-month high. They have since climbed back to nearly 7%. Mortgage rates have, changing the affordability picture for many home buyers. More swings like this are expected in 2025, with refinancing sprints occurring during the dips. So they're saying mortgage rates about 7%, just like Redfin. Buyer markets will spread to the southwest, my bad. Currently, 13 major metro markets are buyers' markets. That means buyers have more power than sellers, more control than sellers do, where buyers have the upper hand in negotiations, according to Zillow's Market Heat Index. with most of those in the Southeast. Zillow predicts buyers markets will spread to the Southwest in 2025 as inventory continues to come unstuck. These buyer markets should have the greatest number of movers, while sellers feel the heat of competition as buyers will have more homes to choose from. If mortgage rates fall more than expected, that dims the prospects that buyer markets will spread. It is anticipated that a significant mortgage rate dip would bring more buyers than sellers back into the market, increasing competition and tilting negotiating power in favor of the sellers. I agree. I think lower rates is not going to bring a ton of supply to the market while the demand sits there and stares at the low rate. I mean, be real, right? I mean, people want affordable housing. So if all of a sudden your mortgage payment goes down 10% because rates are lower, even though prices haven't dropped, are you going to say, well, I'm not going to buy because rates are lower? No, a lot of people are going to buy because rates are lower. So I think it's going to bring back more demand. So if you're wanting a housing market crash, pray, 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 and hope and wish for mortgage rates not to crash. Because if mortgage rates drop, you're going to see people run back into the market. There are a lot of people with cash, like ready to buy, but there's a lot of people that don't have the cash and they don't want to use cash. So they're ready to buy as rates drop, right? Americans embrace small home living. Okay. The pandemic era need for more and more space is over. Home buyers will increasingly lean into smaller homes as a more sustainable, affordable, and desirable way to live. The term cozy is appearing in more listing descriptions, 35% more in 2024 compared to 2023, reflecting current design trends that have shifted away from a cavernous open floor plan towards contained spaces that have their own style and purpose. Yeah, is that whole open concept thing, like, hey, knock out this wall so like the living room and the kitchen are all in one room, is that over? That's what they're saying. Home values of small condos are finally stabilizing after remote work left downtowns more empty. Even while home value appreciation of larger properties, though much stronger, continues to soften. They're right about this. Big homes like here in Columbus, like there are a lot of homes that are huge and they're like a dime a dozen, right? You go into like the suburbs like Dublin or, Hilliard, they've got these big subdivisions or like Grove City here outside of Columbus. There's these big subdivisions where like every home's the same. Like if you came home in the middle of the night and were like tired and groggy, you'd walk into the wrong home because they all look exactly the same. You're like, that's my home. Nope, that one is. No, that one is. They all look the same. So they're saying, hey, smaller, cozy, affordable homes is where it's at. I agree. There are some spots inside outer belts that you can find homes built in like 1950, 1940, 1930. And each one's kind of unique. And they all have like those separated rooms, right? Like they have a dining room, they have a living room, they have a sitting room, they have a kitchen. And if you're in the dining room, you're not seeing any, or you're in the living room, you're not seeing anybody in the kitchen. You're seeing, you're just there. It's like, it's where you put your library, I guess. Or you talk to people before you have dinner. So anyway, they're saying that's making a comeback. I'd love to know what you think. I like that cozy feeling. I also like open spaces though in houses. So I guess that's just a conundrum. All right, last call for rent concessions is our next prediction. Apartment renters enjoyed a relatively friendly market this year, did they? At least compared to record rent growth seen in 2022. Okay, so rent isn't growing as fast, but rent prices are still off the hook. Rent growth has held steady at a reasonable pace, and the share of rental listings on Zillow offering a concession such as free weeks of rent or free parking is at a record high. Zillow expects renters will not have as much opportunity to negotiate for that free month of rent by the end of next year. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's at the end of the day, rent hasn't crashed. It's just moderating as far as the growth goes, but it's also market specific, obviously. I mean, concessions are a great way to get people in apartments. There's no doubt. But what I've experienced as a landlord is that if you give a concession, you have to be really careful because the person needs to be able to afford the apartment, and they need to be happy at the apartment, right? So like going out like a free month of rent helps them for 1 month, but they're not like spreading that over the term. They're just thinking, I got a free month this month, but next month I got to pay the high rent. So to me, I don't really like concessions that much. I do like concessions where you give like free memberships to places, like a free membership to a gym. I think that's a good thing to give people. But just like a free month of rent to me is kind of, I don't know, it's kind of cheesy. Pet friendliness will become non-negotiable for property managers. No doubt. Renters are getting older and they're not putting off adulting milestones such as moving in together or getting a pet before they buy a home. The median age of a renter has risen to 42. Interesting. And they are settling into a renter lifestyle. Fewer renters consider buying this year, which is understandable given the conditions that make renting more affordable options in many markets. With 58% of renters having a pet, up from 46%, it's no wonder that nearly half said they passed on a particular property because it was not pet friendly. In today's more competitive rental landscape, not allowing pets may put property managers behind the 8 ball. I agree. Pets can do a lot of damage to your units. There's no doubt. But I love dogs. I'm a dog person. I've got 2 dogs. If I was renting a place, I wouldn't live anywhere that didn't accept dogs. It's a balance as a landlord, but I agree that you're going to have more people, and I'm seeing it. More people are saying, "Hey, do you accept dogs?" No. Oh well, I'm not really interested. So I think that's true. I highlighted this because I just thought it was an interesting trend, especially that the median renter age has risen to 42. Hmm. Yeah. By the way, if you own a home, uh, that points to what I would think is like a boomer or Gen X, I guess 42 Gen X. Or is that a millennial? Um, don't sell your home. Keep it, rent it to somebody, and then maybe you want to rent a place. Like if you're like, this is too much for me to take care of, or I don't want this house anymore, or whatever, hang on to it, rent it to somebody, and then go rent an apartment that makes sense for you. So there's a spread there and you make some money every month, right? But whatever you do, see if you can hang on to your house. I always encourage people to hang on to their real estate. Okay, so that's Zillow's forecast. You've got a 2.6% growth in home prices. You've got more home sales. You've got rent concessions softening next year. I'm not sure I agree with that. I don't know why they would soften next year necessarily. I think you're still going to have supply hitting the market. And then you've got Redfin's prediction at 4%. So check this out. This is their predictions. And I have in here 2025, you can see, which was 4% and 2.6% for Redfin and Zillow. But look at their 2024 prediction. This is what shocked me. And maybe it shocks you. The narrative has been that Zillow and Redfin lie to people. They lie to people because they're incentivized that the housing market should grow a lot. And that, if the housing market isn't growing, they're not going to make as much money. So they're going to be cheerleaders. I'm sure you've heard that, right? Tell me you have heard that on YouTube. Like, you can't trust Zillow. You can't trust Redfin. They're all corrupt data. It's all corrupt, right? Then they go and they use the Redfin data. And then you're like, well, I thought it was corrupt. But anyway, look at the predictions for 2024. Just simmer on that one. Redfin projected that prices would drop 1% in 2024. Actual price growth, 5.2%, according to Redfin data. Zillow said prices would drop 0.1% in 2024. Actual growth, 2.4%, according to Zillow data. So the fact that they were actually bearish on the 2024 housing market and prices went up was surprising to me, because one would think that their 2024 prediction, given the narrative you hear a lot of people mention, is that their predictions would have been like, growth's going to be 10% this year. And then it actually came in at 5 or 2% or whatever. And then they're like, oh, I guess we had to revise our forecast downwards. Oh, well, we're corrupt. We're lying to you. So they actually grew a lot more than they thought in home prices. So now you look at 2025 and think, okay, maybe maybe it'll grow more than 4% and 2.6% for these guys. Maybe it will. Um, but I guess my point there is not everybody is out to get us with the housing market. I'm not saying Zillow and Redfin aren't out to make money, but the fact that they projected home prices to go down in 2024 and they actually went up like they did, I think maybe should give you some pause if you're in the camp of, Zillow and Redfin are evil, they're corrupt. You can't trust any data you see. It's all a lie. It's all fraud, greed, corruption, manipulation, and there's no hope. So if you're in that camp, just take a look at what they did. And I've got the links. The links are in my description below as far as their forecast. I don't know if I put 2024 in there, but it's easy to find. You just Google it. Google 2024 Redfin prediction, and you can look at the article. And we're going to track this. So that is Redfin and Zillow. Now look at this. Here are all the experts that I tracked so far this week and their predictions. So you've got the 2024 prediction, 2024 actual, and what they think is going to happen in 2025. So we've got, how many do we have here? What is this? This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We've got 9 experts on here. None of them, except one, just one, projected home prices are going to drop next year. And that's Moody's, 0.4%, right? That's it. Everybody else said it's going to go up next year. Apollo Global is the most bullish. I couldn't find their prediction for 2024, but in 2025, they're saying 10.8% growth in home prices. That would be not good, right? Not good. A 5 to 7% is like normal. I mean, that's like a normal growth historically. So even a 3, 2, a 4% growth is slightly under historical averages. So that's not that's not all doom, right? I mean, it's still growing, but like rent, it's not growing as much as it was a few years ago. So anyway, it's pretty interesting. Let me just grab a couple comments here, and then I got a jet, guys. Oh, yeah, that was it. That can't be good for the economy. Everyone has less left to spend. Right. No, you're right. I mean, home prices are going up. I think a lot of projections are that wages are going to increase. Don't know if that's going to happen. But rent and mortgage payments right now are just, quite frankly, ridiculous. They just are. It doesn't seem like they're going to improve very much in 2025. So are we doomed in 2025? I guess if you're like, can barely afford a mortgage payment right now and you're trying to buy a house, it could be tough. There are a lot of ways to find a house off market, though. That's another video, though. Ben Frank, what's up? All this proves is that their predictions are meaningless. Huh? How so? Really? Oh, you mean because they projected too low and now they actually went up? I see your point. I see your point, Ben Franklin. I see it. Well, look at some of these other folks. Like one of the ones I thought was kind of, was maybe right on was CoreLogic. Like look at CoreLogic. They projected 2.9 and we actually came in at 3.4. Housing Wire, 5% projection, 4.3. So they're a little more accurate, right? Goldman Sachs was off more. Look at Morgan Stanley. They missed by a mile. Like they swung at the ball and like the ball was up here and they swung down here. Look, -3, they thought, actually came in at 3.85. Just no correlation, really big guesses. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it is a guess, but I find it interesting and fascinating how just the narrative around not only just from the public, but from Redfin and Zillow, how they say, hey, this is where home prices are going to go. And then we can track and see if they're actually accurate or not. But I do think that kind of debunks the narrative that it's fixed. Like their data is like fixed or like corrupted. And they're like behind the scenes, like Glenn Kelman at Redfin's like moving charts around and like moving graphs with his pen. If he was going to do that, he would say, "Hey, we're going to have a great 2025." And then it came in even better than we expected. Instead, they said we're going to have a bad 2024, and it came in better than they expected. Maybe they're sandbagging. Maybe that's the conspiracy. Can you explain why the actuals are not all the same? Ah, that's a great question. Nobody's asked that yet. Yeah, they all use different house price indexes. They all use different indexes for their home prices. So some use Case Shiller, some use like a home price index. Like Zillow has their own way of doing it, and so does Redfin. So they all kind of have their own method there, but some of them do share like uh and some of them use like FHFA data, like Realtor or National Association of Realtors has their own. So that's a great question. Smash the world. Ben Frank. I agreed. I just think it's the best guess based on what data they have. Right. Exactly. That's their best guess. Right. It's just their best assumption. So we'll keep tracking this throughout the year. I've got a couple more people to add to this list. I want to add some YouTubers. I want to add Melody Wright to this list because she's saying home prices were going to decline this year. It's almost in the end of the year. I haven't seen the decline yet. And then she's saying home prices are going to drop by double digits in 2025, starting in the spring. We got a few months before this drop's going to happen, according to Melody Wright. We'll find out. But I think Mike Zuber may have thrown out his forecast yesterday, so I'll check that and put him on the list. It's interesting for thought, but just means nothing at all. Yeah. I mean, let's be real, right? A lot of this stuff, like on YouTube, as far as real estate goes, is kind of entertainment. I mean, it really is, right? Um, adjust for inflation would be interesting to see. Yeah, it would be. Thanks, Ben Frank and Smash the World. Thanks for your comments. I appreciate it. All right, guys, I have to go. I got to end this. But I wanted to get out this 2025 housing market prediction from Zillow and Redfin. Are we doomed next year? I don't think so. If you're wanting to buy a house, you got to do things others won't do. I don't care if you have money to buy a house, unless you just don't care about buying, spending extra money. I would find something off market or something on market, but negotiate, hunt, peck, prod, follow up, and find yourself a deal. So, all right, listen, thanks so much for your time. Like, subscribe, comment below. I want to know what you think about these 2025 housing market predictions. I'm going to do another live tomorrow morning with a couple more updates and predictions. And until then, I'm out of here. See ya.